Hello and welcome to Photoshop Foundry. Today I'm going to show you how to put a grunge border around this photo. What I'd like to do is show you how to do it as a mask, and I'm going to actually use a brush to create it, and then I'm going to add that brush to the mask. So let's get started. This is the image that I want to add the mask to, and what I've done is created a blank file that is already made the same size as the photo that I want to add it to. That's not absolutely critical, but it will make it a little bit easier to do. So what I want to do though is start with a brush, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Let's try 100 and let's just go with the 150 pixel diameter. This is a soft edged brush. I'm going to I don't want this to be real perfect, but I'm going to go around the edges and kind of paint in some edges here. The reason I don't want it to be perfect is just I'm kind of trying to go for a rough grunge effect. And then I'm going to also go back in and just use a standard these series of brushes right in this range here are kind of some fab brushes that come with Photoshop. I'm going to take one of those and I'm going to up that one to around 150 as well. And I'm painting, I'm going to go back in and kind of rough up these edges just a little bit more, so we end up with something kind of rough. And this is kind of interesting in and of itself, but it's not the complete effect that I wanted to accomplish, at least to show you today. It's a little too rough and inconsistent around the edges, and there's some filters that we can do to kind of help us get a grunge rough edge but still have a little bit of nice consistency to it. So what we want to do is we want to come in and we want to use the artistic filters, and we want to use, let's see, I had a problem finding this before and I'm having a problem finding it again. So what I'm going to do is just the great thing about CS3 here is you can actually pick any of these, and then it's going to bring up the artistic palette here. And now this is the artistic palette. By default I picked colored pencils. What I want to pick is plaster, which is not showing up on that list, the short list, but there's plaster. And we've got some interesting controls over here with plaster. We can kind of control the balance, which is some lightness and darkness, and then also how much it smooths it. And these are the things that I wanted to show you. Is we can kind of get a little smoothing in here without too much work, still have a rough frame, but smooth it out a little bit. And it'll be up to you how much of that roughness you want to keep. And this balance, this is actually kind of controlling the lightness and darkness of the image, so that's why it's creeping around the edges where we had that soft edge. And you can control the light source. The light source doesn't really matter that much because I'm actually going to get rid of all that because I don't want it. Unfortunately, there's not an easy way for us to get rid of that right here inside of this palette here. So let's just go ahead and go with that. We actually need to adjust the levels of our image, so we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, Levels. I want to get this light area here out of here and get it darker, so I'm going to go take the mid-range and pull that way down so I can get a little darker edges on this. I don't want any of that lightness over there. And I don't have to, if I go all the way down, I'm going to lose some of the edges that I want, so I need to go somewhat down. Then I can go over here and go back to my posterization under Image Adjustments, Posterize. I'm going to pick 2 levels, and I'm still getting a little bit of this over here, but that's I can take care of that pretty easily by picking a brush, and I'm going to make the brush a little bit larger. You can do this with your bracket, your left and right bracket keys as well. I'm just going to do this real quick, and we're going to swap the color to black here. So there we go. Now we have our grunge border for our photo. And I could just take this over to my photo and apply it, but what I found to be handy is to keep these brushes, or keep these grunge borders as brushes so that I can reuse them again quickly later without going back and opening this file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all, which is Command or Control A, and do that the quick way. And I'm going to go down to Define Brush Preset. You can pick a name for it, and I'm just going to leave this name here for now for default purposes. You may want to name this something a little clearer just so you know what you've done. We're saving it as a brush. Now, it's a brush now. You can't really tell that until you look under your, if you pick your brush and then you pick your brush palette, you'll see there's the brush that we just made right there. And if I go out here, I can actually see that brush. Now, I want to jump back over to my photo, and I'm going to change this. It's set by default as a background, so we need to change that name so that it's not background anymore, so it'll unlock for us. I'm going to leave it at the default layer 0 name. I'm going to click on the mask, add a mask layer icon down here, so I've got a mask layer. I now have my paintbrush made to the right size, and I'm going to paint on the mask, and there is my grunge border.